Australia's housing market didn't cool down, it just mutated like a virus. But instead of attacking your lungs, it attacks your borrowing power, your rent, and your will to live. And you know what the funniest part is? Everyone's acting surprised like, what? Houses are expensive again? Bro, they never stop, guys. They just changed form. This is a summary of what we're unpacking today. Today, we're unpacking Domain's December 2025 property report analysis and what it really tells us. And it's not the fluffy part about, oh, property is resilient headlines. We're going to look at the actual shifts that's happening underneath that. We're going to cover why prices hit new record highs again across most capital cities, and why units are quietly becoming the new battleground, and why that's not bad news, and why the market isn't one market anymore. It's actually splitting into multiple realities. And after that, what this means for renters, first home buyers, and investors trying not to get financially body slammed in 2026. And yeah, guys, I'll also roast the mobs in the clown suits and also the just work harder crowd. So firstly, guys, we'll talk about, oh, it's record highs, but it's not a boom, it's controlled squeeze. And if you're still asking, is the market still up or down, Q? What I'm trying to say is, when you're asking that question, you're asking a 2018 question in a 2026 nightmare. Because according to Domain's property report in December 2025, in terms of looking at the numbers, city houses are sitting at $1.76 million, up by 2% for the quarter and 6.4% for the bloody year. Melbourne house prices hit $1.11 million, and that's up by 2.9% in the quarter, but actually 7.4% annually. Like, Melbourne's finally surpassing the old 2021 peak after 4 years of pain. And if you're looking at this data over here, Perth was the main character. Houses went up by 9.9% in the quarter and 18.4% for the bloody year. And right now over there, all houses are pushing past $1 million. And Darwin, they went full chaos mode. 22.4% annual growth. So yeah, guys, prices are, rising. But don't forget, guys, this isn't a party. This is a ration line. Like, you know, those people lining up for Centrelink? That's the line. Now, to quote those bullish economics and property commentators, they'll say stuff like, oh, quote, strong demand, tight supply, and the population growth are supporting the prices, end quote. What this translates to is there are more people than homes, and the market does not care about your feelings. But on the other side, the skeptical side, you hear something like, quote, this can't keep going, and affordability is broken, end quote. And you know, they're not wrong. But as you know, if all things are equal, the broken systems don't always collapse straight away. It's just a slow burn. And this is my savage take, guys. There isn't a boom at the moment. It's a slow motion transfer of wealth from the people that say, oh, I'll buy one day, to the people that say, oh, I bought 5 years ago. Like, this isn't even capitalism anymore. It's basically survival mode with a postcode. Like, let me give you a client case study at the moment. I had a client, Sam, 29. He's a nurse. He's based in Sydney. He's been pre-approved early 2025 for $820,000 purchase. By December, the same suburb that he wanted to move to moved up roughly by 6%. And his repayments on the same loan amount were higher because the bank's buffers didn't relax much. Sam went from choosing a nice 2-bedroom townhouse to do I want a 1-bedroom unit near a train line? Now, since when Sam got the pre-approval, he had a lot of doubts. He was umming and ahhing, never pulled the trigger. But finally, when we linked him up with a financial advisor, and then also he did the numbers himself, we pivoted him into a $690,000 unit with a $640,000 loan. And him being a noob investor, rent estimated to be $650 a week. And then suddenly when he finally pulled the trigger, obviously with a lot of structured advice, he's suddenly not chasing the market. He's in the market. So right now, if you're wondering where buyers are running to when houses are becoming fantasy level expensive, let's talk about a real plot twist in 2025. In this segment over here, based on the Domain's property report, we're seeing that units are outgrown houses. And this is the affordability pivot that nobody wants to admit. Like, this is the part where most investors keep missing, like they're still emotionally attached to a backyard like it's a religious belief. Like, based on the report, Domain shows that Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Darwin, unit prices have outpaced houses in the December quarter. And some numbers that should slap you awake right now, Brisbane units are up by 8.1% in 1 quarter. And in 1 year, they rose by 19.3%. The median unit prices are about $770,000. For Perth units, they're up by 7.4% quarterly. And annually, that's 17.8% annual growth. And their median prices are $608,000. So pretty much affordable at the moment. Whilst for Melbourne units, they're up by 3.8% quarterly and 4.4% annually. That's a median average unit price of $601,000. Whilst for Sydney units, guys, they went up by 2.1% in the quarter and 3.2% annually, where the median unit prices in Sydney is $844,000. So the numbers that you see at the moment here, contrary to a lot of things that you know, units are not dead. What this data is translating to is that the units are becoming the entry point to the next phase of wealth building. But then you hear those old schoolers, those anti-unit buyers, you'll hear stuff like, quote, units don't grow, land is what matters, end quote. But that's like saying, oh, only Ferraris are cars. Like, yeah, cool, but you're still catching the goddamn bus. If you can't buy the Ferrari, for example, the house, you can still get the Honda Civic, drive it for a bit to get into the Ferrari. And this is where I'll balance this view with the pro-unit sayers. They'll say something like, oh, quote, affordability pressures are pushing demand into higher density living, end quote. And that's basically translating saying people don't prefer units, they prefer not being priced out of life. It's either get something or get nothing. And this is my savage take, guys. A unit isn't a compromise, right? But I talk about it a lot. Hey, when people book a strategy call with me, hey, Q, should I buy a house or a unit? I always say buy a house if you can afford the goddamn house. If you can't afford anything that is remotely close to a house, yes, go for a townhouse, go for a villa, or lastly, go for a unit. And guys, this isn't a compromise. It's just long-term strategy. Because honestly, guys, if you're a renter, the real flex in 2026 is owning anything that doesn't come with landlord mood swings. And you know what I'm talking about, right? They don't feel like it in this quarter and they jack up the rent. Here's a client case study, right? I had a client, her name's Jay. She's 32, she's a teacher, she's in Brisbane. She also, found me on TikTok and Facebook and booked a call with me. She wanted to buy a house, but she couldn't crack into it without going to the outer ring suburbs. With the help of a financial advisor to run the numbers and also a buyer's agent, which is independent, we got her into a $735,000 unit, 90% land, with no mortgage insurance, because there's a bank at the moment, regardless of what occupation, they can lend you 90%, no mortgage insurance, and the loan was around, $700,000. Something around that. And the rent came in at $720 a week. And right now, even though she's at 90%, she's still building equity to 80% or hopefully 70% to later use the equity to buy her second property. And while she's doing that, all her other friends who were like, nah, I'm not gonna buy a unit, I'd rather buy nothing, they're still on the comment sections of my videos and go, hey, housing is unfair. But really, guys, is the system unfair? Yes, it's unfair, but life is unfair, right? But my client right now, she's playing chess and she's not crying at the chessboard like her other mates. Now, right now in this video, let's segue. And this is where it gets spicy. Because right now in 2026, the topic isn't just about houses versus units. The hot topic right now is that the market is splitting into different timelines, depending on where you're living. So thirdly, in this video, we'll talk about how Australia isn't one market anymore. It's multiple economies, pretending to be a country. Like people online keep talking about, oh, the Australian property market, like it's one big thing. It's not, guys. Right now, Perth is sprinting. Brisbane is still on steroids. Adelaide is quietly strong. Canberra is kind of mixed. Hobart is recovering. And baby Melbourne is back from the dead. According to Domain's house data, Perth houses went up by 9.9% quarterly and 18.4% annually. Adelaide houses 5% quarterly and 11.9% annually. Brisbane houses went up by 4.5% quarterly and 13.3% annually. In terms of the combined capital cities, 3.9% quarterly and 9.6% annually. But if you look at the data and isolate just Canberra, for example, to see that there's two-speed market, the houses went up, but actually the units went down. Now that's the definition of a two-speed market inside one city. And right now you hear headlines like, oh, prices surged to new record highs, which is kind of technically true, but it's like saying the average person is doing fine because billionaires exist. Whilst on the other side of the debate, the doomsayers will say, oh, the property market is a bubble, it's gonna burst. But I want to say to those naysayers, bubbles usually look like speculation. This event at the moment with this data, this looks like structural shortage plus demand rerouting. And guys, this is my savage take. This market doesn't crash for the average Aussies. It just becomes unavailable. It's like, for example, a nightclub with a $500 cover charge. The party's still going on, like people inside like myself and my existing clients, we're having a great time. But for the people, the noobs that can't cover the cover charge, well, you're not invited. Let me give you another case study, right? This is like a wrong city mistake. We have a client, Aaron. He's 35. He's an electrician. He's based in Melbourne. He booked a call with me like 3 months ago. Like old mate over here, Aaron, he almost bought an investment unit in a patch where supply was flooding in. Like for example, it had shiny towers, incentives, rental guarantees, the whole circus. And the purchase would have been $610,000. The loan was $550,000. Rent looked like around $600 a week. But hold on a sec, that is on paper. This is what the real estate agent tried to sell him. $600 a week on paper. But the real market rent was actually closer to $520 a week. And when Aaron looked closer, the vacancy risk was actually rising. When he booked a call with us and he's like, hey, look, you were talking about your independent buyer's agent, your independent financial advisors. I flicked them to them. And with a bit of discussion, they stopped him from buying that lemon. And they redirected him to a scarcity-driven pocket in Victoria where comparable stock was tighter. And at the end with my holistic lending, he had the same budget, but a totally different outcome. So right now, if you're scratching your head thinking, hey, Q, what's actually driving this? Let's talk about the 3 forces that keep punching your wallet in the throat. So right now, in the 4th part of this video, we're going to talk about how supply, population, and borrowing power is the unholy trinity. According to Domain's economist, Dr. Nicola Powell, she basically points out to the same 3 engines: tight supply, strong population growth, and improved borrowing capacity. Now, let me just translate this to street language, so I'm not talking in jargon. What she's saying is not enough homes, more people arriving, for example, immigration, and buyers can still borrow just enough to keep prices moving, even with the new DTI limitation at 6. So even when rates are higher and serviceability didn't collapse, it just became a filter that punishes regular income earners and rewards anyone with help from family or existing equity. You know, those bank of mum and dads. So sometimes in the news, you'll hear something like, oh, this isn't speculative. It's just fundamentals. And yes, it's fundamentals. But fundamentals can still create dystopia if the fundamentals are rigged. The property market isn't fair for everyone. And this is where you hear a lot of frustrated Aussies, and most of them are renters. They'll say something like, oh, I can't save because rent is too high. And then the first home buyers say, oh, I can't buy because prices are too high. And then they're both right, because the system is designed to keep you treading water. And guys, this is my savage take. The mobs in the clown suits, you know, I can't say their actual organizational name because I'll get banned or censored in these type of roast videos. They don't need to ban you from buying property. They just let the market do it for themselves. It's cleaner, no fingerprints. Let me give you another client case study, right? I have a client, Mina. She's 27. And she's a grad accountant in one of those, you know, big fancy 4 accounting firms, right? She's in Sydney. She got a pay rise and thought her borrowing power would jump through the roof. When I did the calculations with her last week, it barely moved because her living expenses and buffer assumptions rose too. Now, in her head, she thought she was upgrading her life with this, you know, new salary. But the existing system that we have to put the numbers in, they also upgraded the difficulty settings. So what we did was like in our conversation, hey, Mina, I know the system's rigged. Let's not fight the system. Let's just pivot and play chess with the system. So what we did is we structured her with a smaller purchase price, and it ended up with a 620K unit purchase. The loan was $590,000, and she had in her mind a clear 24-month plan to upgrade later. Yes, it's not sexy, but it works. She got into the market at that price. While it's not a big struggle for her repayments, instead of waiting for 2 years and eventually go and buy a property which she would have bought, but if she bought this property 2 years later, it would have been $100,000 more. And now this is where I need to roast the entire ecosystem, because the way it gets sold to the people who do not know about this information is actually criminal. Because let's be real, guys. Because for you guys who's watching this video on a regular basis and supporting this channel, let's be real. The banks love this market because rising prices equal bigger loans, equal profit. Think about the first home guarantee scheme. Borrow 95%, no mortgage insurance. The banks are like, ooh, more money. And then you're watching all these property influencers with their flash cars and their fancy watches. Those guru influencers love it because they can post stuff like, oh, just buy property, like it's a skincare routine. And the mobs in the clown suits, they love it because they can pretend they care while doing absolutely nothing meaningful. And meanwhile, the millennials and the Gen Zs that I serve out there, and including the Gen X and the boomers that contact me, for those guys that still haven't got into the property market, paying rent really feels like a subscription to homelessness. And all the while they're saying for that deposit, their grocery bills and their living expenses costs are doing parkour. You just can't catch them. And lastly, for this mob that I want to represent and speak out loud for them, they are getting sick of being told by other people who are like, oh, just stop eating brunch, guys. Your avocado on toast is too expensive. That's why you can't get into the property. But these are said by people that bought in 2009 for an average unit that would have cost them $430,000. And you know what's the funniest lie? The average advice for these type of people who's trying to get into the market, they're told to be, oh, just be patient. The market will come back to you. Like, oh my God. Mate, what type of advice is that? The market doesn't come back. It moves on without you. And don't get me started on the biggest scam in this fake simplicity. Oh, just buy land, buy a house, units are trash. Like, all you need to do right now is just hustle to get into the house. Yeah, you know, none of that helps if your borrowing power is capped, your rent is rising, and your deposit is evaporating. So here's the truth, guys. Australia's housing market isn't calming down. It's just evolving. And if you don't evolve with it, you become exit liquidity for someone else's portfolio, if you know what I mean. Like right now, the winners in 2026 won't be the loudest. They'll be the ones who understand where demand is shifting, what stock is scarce, and how to structure their money like a weapon, not a wish. So right now, do you want to stay in the system or learn how to beat it? If you want help mapping this out properly, book a 15-minute strategy call, which I call a triage call, or a 60-minute deep dive. Or if you want my 90-minute platinum portfolio accelerator call, where you sit with a roundtable of experts that are all independent, financial planner, possibly the accountant, and the buyer's agent, where we can build a properly plan for you that is holistic with my lending recommendations. And most importantly, if you need a reality slap, we'll certainly be real with you. So yeah, guys, I'm nearly booked out this week and also this month. I've spoken to thousands of Aussies last year, and I'm telling you right now, the ones who win aren't smarter. They're just earlier. But hey, if you're not ready, just hit a like on this video, hit a follow button if you want more videos like this, and most importantly, smash the share button because knowledge is power. Share this free knowledge to your mates. There's no paywall. Watch my other videos, and hopefully with all this knowledge, it can help you end the generational poverty in your family and possibly help you build generational wealth for you and your family. And until next time, I'll see you in another video of That Property Roast.